Israel and Iran, Netanyahu's deadly blunder, coming up next on Deceptions of the Ages News. Hello everybody and welcome to Deceptions of the Ages News. We're going to have a wonderful story today, but first of all, we need to take care of some business very quickly. We need to, first of all, thank you for subscribing to this channel. We have hit over the 5,000 mark. We're coming up on 10,000 and it is awesome. So thank you so much for your support. If you want to continue to support us, hey, check out patreon.com/hindsight. You can sponsor us there. Go to hindsight.com and buy one of my great books, or check out our podcast at Books in Hindsight. So with all of that, let's go ahead. Oh, I forgot one thing. Let's thank some of our subscribers. Harry Gee, or G. G, I have to thank you for subscribing, Harry. Mick Sanders. Mick, I hope you're some relation to the Colonel and are sharing his fortune. David Cossack, thank you for subscribing, David. And Jay McGee, thank you for your subscription as well. So we've got a G or a Gee and a McGee. So that is just great. All right, everybody, so let's get down to our story. Today we're talking about Iran. We're talking about Israel. What's going on? Well, first of all, we need to jump back in our way back machine and go back to the year 1841 so that we can get a connection between Mormons, Freemasons, and extraterrestrials in this video. 1841, Elder Hyde from the Latter-day Saint or Mormon Church went to the Holy Land and gave it a blessing. After 1841, the land began to bloom. A 106 years later, 1947, there is an American president. He is the president because his predecessor, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, died in office, and he doesn't know if he's going to win the election, and quite frankly, nobody else does either. So what they tell him is this. They say, Harry, go around and scare the hell out of the American people. And that's just what he did. He went around and scared the hell out of the American people, and he won the election in 1947. 1947 is another important year as well. That is also the year that the British decided their mandate in Israel was no longer effective after the Israeli, some would call them terrorists, blew up the King David Hotel, forcing the British out. After that, the year 1948, the State of Israel was created. But going back to 1947 very quickly, the creation of the Central Intelligence Agency and the United Nations was also created the same year, and the following year, the Security Council recognized the State of Israel. How convenient. From the time that Israel was recognized until basically today, it has been in a constant state of warfare, but we need to jump back and talk about a couple of particular incidents. And the first one is the 1967 war. And the reason the 1967 war is so important for us is because between the tensions in a state of warfare that existed ever since 1947, brief skirmish at the Suez Canal in 56. In 1967, the Russians had them both so convinced the other was going to attack, it led to the Israelis doing a preemptive strike in 1967, and that became the 1967 war. Russians brokering the peace. Watch out for that one. All right, there is a series of wars and skirmishes that continue. There's the 73 Yom Kippur War. There's the 82 incursion into Lebanon. There's the 2006 incursion into Lebanon. And each time that they have these wars, they become more and more costly for Israel. So now let's talk about Iran. Iran has, of course, a little bit of history with the United States, thanks to the Iranian Revolution of 1979, in which they captured American hostages for 444 days. 1980s, the United States says, hey, Iraq and Iran, Saddam and the Iranians don't like each other, let's let them go to war. And we did. And we supplied Iraq with weapons, and at the same time we sold weapons, technology, and weapons to the Iranians for the Contras in Nicaragua. So while all this was going on, Israel was basically left alone. But guess what? That wasn't going to last forever, now was it? No, it wasn't, because in 1991 there was the Iraq War, of course, but in 2001 we decided, hey, this Saddam guy, he's paying off these suicide bombers, and he's giving their families $25,000 for these kids going in, and women and whatever, blowing themselves up in Israel. So guess what? We invaded Iraq and we got rid of Saddam Hussein. Good thinking. All right, well, once we got rid of Saddam Hussein, as I said, well, things were also different for Israel. And the number one thing is that they had a new guy in town, and that was Barack Obama. And Barack Obama's idea was to start a revolution throughout the Middle East, arm these jihadists, these ISIS, wherever they are, and have them overthrow, like Bashar in Syria, have them overthrow Gaddafi, etc., in order to get a terrorist state basically alive and well in the Middle East. And that was what Obama did for us. But fortunately, the American people saw through that. Obama gone, Hillary gone. And now we have a new policy, which is we, the United States, under the Trump administration, recognizes Israel, recognizes Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, and basically has upset everybody in the Arab world, even though it had long been recognized before. I have to point that out. So now there is a new dynamic in the Arab and Israeli conflict. Or is it so new? No, the new and not really new dynamic is that the Russians are back brokering the peace. Remember 1967, where they had both sides at edge against each other? Well, guess what? They are both looking to Russia. I don't know which is worse, looking at the U.S. with the nutcases we have in our government, or looking at Russia, who's always looking out for Russia first to guarantee their own safety, but now they don't appear to have any choice. So going back to 1947, going back to Harry S. Truman, we see Benjamin Netanyahu, or Bibi as they call him, going around and playing this same game. He's going to Israel trying to get reelected in an election where he may not win because his competitor is almost more of a hawk than he is. So now you have Netanyahu going around to the nations of the world that he is crying wolf. He's saying the Iranians are posing some kind of threat to him, and maybe they are, and maybe they are not. But the fact of the matter is, he is up for re-election, and there has been a lot of precedent for this. Now, the fact of the matter is, with Russia brokering the deal, they both have something that they want. Netanyahu wants his re-election. The Iranians want to keep their power because they are also getting a lot of pressure from the United States and from sanctions and asking for people to overthrow the Iranian regime. So, with all of this in play, you have the Russians brokering a deal after what happened in '67. You have Netanyahu running for re-election. You have the Iranians trying to keep power. And we all see that you can use the weapons, you can use the fear, you can use the money and the media. They all work together to keep your power. But is this a deadly game? All right, so now you're probably saying, okay, so we've seen the Latter-day Saints or the Mormons. Where are the Freemasons and the Extraterrestrials in all of this? Well, for the extraterrestrial part, you have to remember, it's the Holy Land. It's the place where the greatest extraterrestrial of all ever came from. All right, and his father oversaw the whole thing. So there's your extraterrestrial connection. But now the Freemason connection, that's going to be a little bit more complicated. You see, the thing is, 1979, there was a revolution, and they threw out the government, the Shah of Iran, who was probably illegally put in there by the Central Intelligence Agency anyway, but they overthrew him, and they had the Iranian Republican Revolution. I shouldn't say Republican, Iranian Revolution, Revolutionary Guard came in, and they took over. Well, guess what? They're not Freemasons. And not only are they not Freemasons, they kicked all Freemasons out of the country. They outlawed Freemasonry, and that is a problem. Why is that a problem? Well, it's a problem because the state of Israel is full of Masonic symbolism. The United States is full of Masonic symbolism. If you go to Russia, if you go to Europe, you will see all of your leaders, all of these people in your deep state playing this game of, you know, they pretend to be the government, whatever, but behind the scenes, they are really pulling the strings and making sure that we don't have any rights or sovereignty. So these are the Freemasons, and they don't like Iran. So where you have Russia brokering a deal which keeps people at odds with each other, which keeps them buying weapons, which keeps Israel importing weapons from the US and allows Iran to develop its own weapons and buy weapons from China and technology, well, it's just good business. So as the Freemasons love good business, we have to ask ourselves, what's going to happen? Well, I wouldn't put my money on the Iranian regime, but I also don't think they would go down without a fight. So that is why I say, Netanyahu, he could be playing a deadly game. This is Deceptions of the Ages News. We'll see you next time.